I would rather marry a complete stranger off the street than the man you picked for me. The words came out sharper than Noah Bennett intended, echoing across the private fitting room lined with mirrors and expensive gray tuxedos he couldn't breathe in. His mother looked horrified. His father looked tired. And the wedding consultant standing in the corner suddenly became very interested in steaming a jacket sleeve that didn't need steaming. Noah dragged both hands through his dark hair and stared at his own reflection like he didn't recognize the man trapped inside it. The tux fit perfectly. Of course it did. Everything about the Vale family arrangement was perfect on paper. 2 wealthy families. 2 respected last names. 1 carefully planned marriage that would merge business interests and secure political connections across half the East Coast. It sounded less like a wedding and more like a corporate acquisition. You're being dramatic, his father said flatly. You haven't even met Lucy in Vale yet. Noah laughed once, breathless and bitter. That's supposed to make me feel better? The consultant quietly slipped out of the room. Smart woman. Noah loosened the suffocating tie around his neck and turned toward the massive windows overlooking downtown Chicago. Rain streaked the glass in silver lines, blurring the skyline into something cold and distant. Somewhere out there, apparently, was the man he was expected to marry in less than 3 weeks. Lucien Vale, the youngest heir to the Vale Empire. The mysterious golden son nobody ever saw unless it involved cameras, billion-dollar deals, or charity galas. Every article described him the same way. Elegant, intelligent, untouchable. Noah hated him already. This marriage is happening, his mother said softly, trying and failing to sound gentle. You'll learn to love him. Noah swallowed hard. That was the problem. Everybody kept talking about love like it was something trainable, like obedience with flowers attached. He looked down at the silver ring box resting on the fitting table and suddenly felt sick. I can't do this, he whispered. His father's expression hardened immediately. Enough. No, you don't. Understand. Noah's voice cracked despite himself. I wake up every morning feeling like my life already belongs to somebody else. Silence swallowed the room. Rain tapped softly against the windows. Then Noah said the first desperate thing that came into his head. I already have someone. Both parents froze. Noah's heartbeat nearly stopped with them. His mother blinked. What? Too late now. I have a boyfriend, Noah lied. The air changed instantly. His father stared at him in disbelief, while his mother slowly sat down on the velvet bench beside the mirrors. Since when? She asked carefully. Noah opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Since absolutely never. A few months, he managed weakly. And you neglected to mention this before? His father snapped. Noah crossed his arms defensively, even though panic was clawing straight through his chest. Because I knew you'd react exactly like this. His father exhaled slowly through his nose, the universal sign that Bennett family patience was reaching dangerous levels. Fine, he said at last. Bring him to the engagement dinner on Friday. Noah went completely still. What? If this relationship is serious enough to challenge the arrangement, then we'll meet him. Noah's stomach dropped so fast it physically hurt. Friday. For days away. 4 days to magically invent a boyfriend convincing enough to survive dinner with 2 billionaire families who could smell weakness like sharks smelled blood. Dad. Friday, his father repeated. Or this conversation is over. The door opened behind Noah before he could answer. One of the assistants stepped inside nervously. Mr. Bennett, she said quietly. The Vale representative just arrived early. Noah shut his eyes in immediate exhaustion. Of course they did. Of course the universe hated him personally. Tell them I'm not interested in tuxedo samples anymore, he muttered. But before the assistant could respond, a deep, unfamiliar voice spoke calmly from somewhere beyond the doorway. That's unfortunate. Noah turned instinctively toward the sound, and for one strange suspended second, the entire room felt too small to breathe in. The man standing outside the fitting room was tall, impossibly composed, dressed in a charcoal overcoat darkened slightly by rain. Silver cufflinks flashed beneath the sleeves as he removed one black leather glove with slow, precise movements. But it was his eyes that stopped Noah cold. Calm gray eyes focused entirely on him like they already knew every secret he was trying to hide. Because, the stranger said softly, I came here hoping to meet you. Noah had exactly 3 thoughts the moment he saw the stranger standing outside the fitting room. First, this man was definitely rich enough to ruin lives for fun. Second, he looked nothing like the cold corporate robot Noah had imagined someone from the Vale Empire would be. And third, He needed to stop staring immediately before his entire nervous system embarrassed him in front of everybody. The man stepped inside with calm confidence, rain still clinging faintly to the shoulders of his dark coat. Up close, he looked even more unfairly composed. Sharp jawline, pale gray eyes, black hair brushed neatly away from his forehead like he belonged on the cover of a luxury magazine Noah could never afford. The assistant beside the door suddenly straightened. "Mr. Vale," she said nervously. Noah nearly stopped breathing. "Vale." His pulse slammed painfully against his ribs. No, absolutely not. This was not happening. His father immediately moved forward to shake the man's hand. "Lucien," he greeted smoothly. "We were not expecting you until tomorrow." Lucien Vale. Of course. Of course the terrifying arranged husband looked like that. Noah felt personally betrayed by genetics. Lucien's attention shifted back to Noah almost instantly, steady and unreadable. "I was nearby after a meeting," he said calmly. "I thought it might be useful to introduce myself before Friday." Noah folded his arms tighter across his chest. "You could have called." Lucien's expression barely changed, but something almost amused flickered in his eyes. "Would you have answered?" Noah hated that he did not have a comeback ready. The room suddenly felt too warm. His mother excused herself to take a phone call, while Noah's father started discussing event schedules with one of the assistants, leaving Noah standing awkwardly beside the mirrors with the man he was apparently supposed to marry. Great. Fantastic. Noah grabbed the nearest glass of water from the table and immediately regretted it when Lucien looked at the silver engagement ring box still sitting beside him. "You seem uncomfortable," Lucien observed quietly. Noah laughed once. "That is a very polite way to describe this situation." "And the impolite version?" Noah looked him directly in the eyes for the first time. Big mistake. Those gray eyes were dangerous up close. Calm. Focused. The kind that made people accidentally tell the truth. "I feel like my family sold me to a stranger," Noah admitted before he could stop himself. Silence stretched between them. Lucien did not look offended. If anything, he looked thoughtful. "That is fair," he said softly. Noah blinked, caught off guard. "You are agreeing with me?" "I think arranged expectations can feel suffocating." Noah stared at him suspiciously. "You sound weirdly normal for a billionaire heir." A faint smile touched Lucien's mouth, then disappeared so quickly Noah almost imagined it. "You sound disappointed." "I am," Noah admitted. "I was prepared to hate you." "And now?" Noah looked away immediately, undecided. Lucien stepped closer to the fitting table, fingers brushing lightly over the untouched tuxedo fabric. Everything about him felt controlled, precise, like he thought carefully before every movement. But there was something else underneath that calm surface too. Something quieter, lonelier. Noah hated that he noticed. "Your father mentioned you were seeing someone," Lucien said casually. Noah nearly choked on air. "Right. The fake boyfriend lie." "Yes," Noah answered quickly. "I am." Lucien studied him for one long, unreadable second. "Serious?" Noah forced himself not to panic. "Very." Another pause. Then Lucien nodded once. "Then I hope he deserves you." The sincerity in his voice hit Noah harder than expected. Before Noah could figure out why that bothered him so much, his father walked back toward them. "Lucien," he said briskly, "we will finalize seating arrangements Friday night at the engagement dinner." Noah's stomach dropped all over again. Friday. The fake boyfriend disaster. The complete absence of an actual boyfriend. Lucien glanced toward Noah one final time before reaching for his gloves. "I look forward to it," he said calmly. Then, just before turning away, he added in a softer voice only Noah could hear, "Although something tells me your boyfriend does not exist." Noah froze instantly. Lucien held his gaze for one devastating second longer, faint amusement warming those dangerous gray eyes. "Do not worry," he murmured. "Your secret is safe with me." By Thursday night, Noah Bennett had reached a level of desperation normally reserved for people hiding from the government or trying to fake their own deaths. He was currently sitting in the corner booth of a downtown coffee shop pretending not to panic while his best friend Mia stared at him like she was witnessing the collapse of civilization in real time. "Let me get this straight," she said slowly. "You told your billionaire parents you have a secret boyfriend." Noah rubbed both hands over his face. "Correct. And now they want to meet him tomorrow." "Also correct." Mia leaned back dramatically. "Noah, this is the dumbest thing you have ever done, and I once watched you try to microwave aluminum foil." "That was one time. You started a fire." Noah groaned and dropped his forehead against the table. Outside the cafe windows, Rain shimmered against the Chicago streets while headlights blurred gold across the pavement. Everything felt cold lately. Tight. Like his life was narrowing into one unavoidable tunnel, with Lucien Vale standing calmly at the other end waiting for him. Which was annoying. Deeply annoying. Because Noah could not stop thinking about him. About those gray eyes. About the way he had quietly protected Noah's lie instead of exposing him in front of everybody. About how dangerous it felt whenever Lucien looked directly at him. You could hire somebody, Mia suggested suddenly. Noah lifted his head. What? A fake boyfriend? Noah stared at her blankly. You realize that sounds insane. You know what sounds more insane? Accidentally marrying a billionaire because you panicked in a tuxedo store. Fair. Point. Mia grabbed his phone off the table before he could stop her. No. Absolutely not. Noah warned immediately. She ignored him and started typing. Seeking attractive, emotionally stable man to pretend to date me for one family dinner, she read aloud. Compensation negotiable. Must survive rich people interrogation and possibly evil floral arrangements. Noah nearly lunged across the table. Mia. She held the phone out of reach. Relax. We are saving your life. 20 minutes later, Noah regretted everything. His inbox looked like the beginning of a true crime documentary. One guy sent shirtless mirror selfies. Another claimed he was emotionally intuitive with Capricorn energy. One man asked if the fake relationship included yacht access. Noah was about to give up completely when the coffee shop door opened, and every conversation around them seemed to lower instinctively. Noah looked up without thinking, and forgot how breathing worked for a full second. Lucien Vale stood near the entrance in a charcoal coat darkened by rain, one hand slipping casually into his pocket as city lights reflected softly behind him. Two men in dark suits lingered discreetly near the doorway, clearly security despite pretending otherwise. Of course he had security. Of course, even his bodyguards looked expensive. Mia slowly turned toward Noah with terrifying delight. Oh my God, she whispered. That is him. Noah stood so quickly, he nearly knocked over his drink. What are you doing here? Lucien's gaze flicked briefly toward Noah's open phone screen, where the fake boyfriend ad was still visible. Something unreadable crossed his expression. You left your wallet at the fitting appointment, he said calmly, holding it out. Noah blinked. Right. His wallet. The one currently in Lucien's hand, because apparently the universe enjoyed humiliating him personally. Thanks, Noah muttered, reaching for it. Their fingers brushed for less than a second. Warm. Steady. Dangerous. Lucien's eyes dropped briefly to the fake boyfriend listing still glowing on the screen between Noah and Mia. Interesting strategy, he observed softly. Noah immediately grabbed the phone. You were not supposed to see that. Clearly. Mia looked between them with growing fascination. Wait, she interrupted suddenly. You need a boyfriend. He is standing right here. Noah nearly choked. Mia. But Lucien did not look offended. If anything, he looked thoughtful again. That same quiet, calculating look that made Noah feel like Lucien always knew more than everyone else in the room. Then Lucien asked the question that changed everything. What exactly would this arrangement involve? Noah stared at him. Rain tapped softly against the cafe windows while somewhere outside, a black luxury car idled beneath the streetlights waiting for Lucien Vale like the city itself moved around him. You cannot seriously be volunteering, Noah said carefully. Lucien held his gaze without blinking. Why not? Noah opened his mouth, closed it again, because suddenly, terrifyingly, the idea did not feel impossible at all. Noah spent the entire drive to the Bennett engagement dinner questioning every life choice that had led him into the back seat of Lucien Vale's black luxury sedan, pretending to be dating the man he was technically supposed to marry. Across from him, Lucien looked impossibly calm, one arm resting against the leather seat while city lights slid across the windows in silver streaks. Noah, meanwhile, felt like he was seconds away from spontaneous combustion. This is a terrible idea, Noah muttered for what was probably the 10th time. Lucien glanced up from his phone. Probably. You are way too relaxed about this. I have attended hostile shareholder meetings, Lucien replied evenly. Your family dinner does not concern me. Noah stared at him. That might be the most billionaire sentence anybody has ever said. A faint smile tugged briefly at Lucien's mouth before disappearing again. God, that should not have affected Noah as much as it did. The car slowed beneath the glowing entrance of the Bennett estate downtown, where expensive black vehicles already lined the circular driveway. Through the tall windows, Noah could see chandeliers glittering over crowds of wealthy guests dressed like they belonged in magazine spreads instead of real life. He suddenly wanted to jump out of the moving car. Lucien noticed immediately. "You are nervous. I am bringing a fake boyfriend to dinner while secretly sitting beside the man I am actually arranged to marry. Nervous feels appropriate." For the first time all evening, Lucien looked directly at him for longer than a few seconds. Steady gray eyes. Calm. Focused. Dangerous in the quietest possible way. "Then stay close to me," he said softly. Noah's heartbeat stumbled hard enough to physically hurt. Before he could respond, the driver opened the door. The moment they stepped inside the ballroom, conversation shifted instantly. Noah felt it happen like a pressure wave moving through the room. Heads turning. Whispering. Curiosity. Lucien's hand settled lightly against the small of Noah's back as photographers near the entrance immediately noticed them together. The touch was subtle, barely there. Somehow it made Noah feel steadier anyway. "Smile," Lucien murmured quietly near his ear. "You currently look like somebody attending his own execution." Noah almost laughed despite himself. Almost. Then he saw Daniel Mercer across the room. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Daniel was Noah's ex-boyfriend from college and possibly the last person on earth Noah wanted to encounter tonight. Tall, polished, charming in the irritating way rich men learned at private schools. Daniel noticed Noah instantly and walked over with the confidence of someone who had never once heard the word no in his life. "Noah," Daniel greeted smoothly before his eyes shifted toward Lucien. Recognition flashed almost immediately. "Well, this is unexpected." Noah folded his arms defensively. "Daniel." Lucien remained calm beside him. "Mercer," he acknowledged coolly. Of course they knew each other. Of course they did. Daniel's smile sharpened slightly. "I heard rumors the Bennett family arranged something with Vale Holdings," he said casually. "I just did not realize Noah had become part of the contract." Noah felt heat crawl up his neck instantly. Around them, nearby conversations had already started slowing. People were listening, watching. Daniel stepped closer, voice lowering with fake sympathy. "Still, this is impressive even. For you, Noah. Bringing a mystery boyfriend tonight right before the engagement announcement? Bold strategy." There it was. The humiliation Noah had been waiting for all evening. His chest tightened painfully. He hated how easy it was for people like Daniel to make him feel small. Before Noah could force out a response, Lucien moved slightly closer beside him. Calm, elegant, controlled. "Interesting," Lucien said softly. Daniel blinked. "Excuse me." Lucien adjusted the cuff of his dark suit with smooth precision. "You speak about Noah as though he belongs to a negotiation instead of himself." His tone never rose. That somehow made it worse. Around them, the room had gone noticeably quieter. Daniel laughed awkwardly. "I did not mean anything by it." "I know," Lucien replied. "That is what makes it rude." Noah stared at him in complete shock. Lucien's hand settled once more against Noah's back, steady and protective without drawing attention to itself. "Also," Lucien continued calmly, "if you intend to insult someone I care about, at least try to sound intelligent while doing it." Daniel's expression faltered completely. For one perfect second, nobody in the room spoke. Then Lucien looked down at Noah instead, his voice softening almost imperceptibly. "Would you like some air?" Noah could only nod. As Lucien guided him gently away from the ballroom, Noah became painfully aware of two things at once. First, half the room now believed their relationship was real. And second, a terrifying part of Noah was starting to wish it actually was. The rain started the moment Noah stepped out onto the Bennett estate balcony with Lucien beside him. Soft at first, then heavier against the city skyline, turning Chicago into blurred gold and silver beneath the storm clouds. Inside, music and conversation still drifted faintly through the ballroom windows, but out here everything felt quieter, safer. Noah leaned both hands against the cold stone railing and tried to steady his breathing. "You did not have to do that," he said softly after a long silence. Lucien stood beside him, calm as ever with rain collecting lightly in his dark hair. "Do what?" Noah glanced toward him. "Defend me." Lucien's expression barely shifted. "Daniel was trying to embarrass you publicly. People do that all the time." The words slipped out before Noah could stop them. Lucien looked at him differently after that. Not with pity. Somehow worse. Understanding. "They should not," he said quietly. Noah looked away immediately. He hated how easy it was to talk honestly around this man. It felt dangerous. The balcony doors opened behind them before the silence could stretch any further. One of Lucien's security men approached carefully. "Sir," he said in a low voice, "your father is requesting the documents tonight instead of tomorrow." Noah frowned slightly. "Documents?" Lucien's jaw tightened almost invisibly. "Not now," he replied. The guard hesitated. "He said it concerns the marriage contract." Noah went completely still. "Marriage contract?" The words echoed painfully in his chest. Lucien looked toward the guard once, sharp enough that the man immediately stepped back. "Leave us," Lucien said calmly. The guard disappeared without another word. Noah slowly turned toward him. "What marriage contract?" Lucien did not answer immediately, which was answer enough. Something cold slid through Noah's stomach. "Lucien." Rain tapped steadily against the balcony railing while the city glowed beneath them. Lucien exhaled once, controlled and quiet. "You should hear this from me before someone else tells you." Noah suddenly did not want to hear anything at all. "Tell me what?" Lucien met his eyes directly. "I am the man your family arranged for you to marry." Everything inside Noah stopped. The rain, the music, the air in his lungs. "What?" The word barely came out above a whisper. Lucien did not look away. The arrangement was between the Bennett family and the Vale family. Noah stared at him in disbelief. "No," he said immediately. "No, that is not possible." But it was. Of course it was. The expensive security detail. The way Lucien moved through every room like he owned it. The way Noah's father had greeted him at the fitting appointment. The way everybody at dinner seemed careful around him. God. Noah felt sick. "You knew," Noah said slowly. "You knew the entire time." Lucien stayed silent for one devastating second too long. That hurt more than the answer itself. Noah stepped back from him immediately. "You let me humiliate myself in front of you. Noah, you watched me panic about this marriage while pretending to help me escape it." Hurt crashed into anger so fast Noah almost could not separate them. "Was this funny to you?" Lucien's expression hardened for the first time since they met. "No." Then what exactly was the point? Rain soaked through Noah's sleeves as his heartbeat pounded painfully in his ears. "The fake boyfriend thing," he continued bitterly. "Was that entertaining? Watching me trust you while you already knew everything. I never wanted to humiliate you. Congratulations. You failed." Lucien took one careful step closer. "I agreed because you looked terrified." Noah laughed harshly. "And now I look stupid." "Noah." Lucien's voice dropped lower then. Softer. More dangerous somehow, because of how sincere it sounded. "I was trying to give you a choice." Noah froze despite himself. Lucien held his gaze steadily through the rain. "If I approached you as Lucien Vale, heir to the arrangement, you would have hated me before I even spoke." Noah swallowed hard. "Because that part was true." Lucien continued quietly. "I wanted you to meet me before the contract." Noah looked away immediately, chest aching in ways he did not know how to explain. The worst part was that some traitorous piece of him understood, which only made the betrayal hurt more. Behind them, the ballroom doors opened again as voices approached from inside. Reporters, guests, family members searching for them. Lucien glanced toward the noise, then back at Noah. "Please," he said softly, "let me explain everything." But Noah was already stepping away from him, rainwater slipping down his face as his voice cracked with quiet anger. "I do not even know who you really are anymore." Noah did not remember leaving the balcony. One second he was standing in the rain staring at Lucien like he had never truly seen him before, and the next he was halfway down the empty hallway of the Bennett estate with his chest tight enough to hurt. Guests blurred around, him in expensive dresses and polished shoes. But all Noah could hear was the same sentence repeating over and over inside his head. "I am the man your family arranged for you to marry." God. He felt humiliated. Not because Lucien was cruel. Somehow that would have been easier. The problem was that Lucien had been kind, patient, protective. Every soft look, every calm touch against Noah's back, every moment that had started feeling real suddenly tangled together into something painful and confusing. Noah pushed through the front doors of the estate and out into the storm without bothering to grab his coat. Rain soaked through his dress shirt almost instantly, cold against overheated skin. He walked blindly down the sidewalk for nearly a block before headlights slowed beside him. The Black Veil sedan rolled quietly to the curb. Noah kept walking. The passenger window lowered. "Get in the car," Lucien said softly. Noah did not even look at him. "Go away." Rain poured harder. Lucien's voice stayed maddeningly calm. "You are freezing." I said go away. For a moment, The only sound was rain striking pavement and distant traffic moving through downtown Chicago. Then the car door opened. Noah heard footsteps approach behind him before a dark umbrella appeared overhead, shielding him from the storm. Lucien stood beside him in the rain, suit damp at the shoulders, gray eyes steady and tired in the glow of the streetlights. "You are angry," he said quietly. Noah laughed bitterly. "You think. You have every right to be." That answer stopped Noah more effectively than an argument would have. Lucien reached up slowly and removed his own coat before draping it carefully over Noah's shoulders. Warmth settled around him immediately, carrying the faint scent of cedar and rainwater. Noah hated how comforting it felt. "I do not need your pity," he muttered. Lucien looked at him for a long moment. "Good," he said softly, "because that is not what this is." Noah finally turned toward him fully then, frustration burning through the ache in his chest. "Why me?" The question slipped out before he could stop it. Lucien went still. Noah swallowed hard. "You could marry anyone," he continued quietly. "Your family is powerful, rich. People probably line up to date you." A strange sadness crossed Lucien's face, then disappeared almost immediately. "Most people want the Vale name," he admitted. "Not me." Noah frowned slightly. Lucien glanced toward the rain-soaked street, instead of looking at him directly. "I grew up surrounded by people who treated me like an investment before they treated me like a person." His voice stayed calm, but something lonely sat underneath the words. Every conversation became business. Every relationship became strategy. Noah stared at him silently. Lucien gave a quiet, humorless laugh. "When my father told me about the arrangement with your family, I said no 3 separate times." Noah blinked in surprise. Lucien finally looked back at him then. "Then I saw your photograph." The rain seemed quieter somehow after that. Noah's heartbeat stumbled painfully again. Lucien continued softly. "You looked unhappy even in a professional portrait." Noah almost smiled despite himself. "That is depressing." It was honest. For the first time since the balcony, Lucien's carefully controlled composure cracked slightly around the edges. Just enough for Noah to see the exhaustion underneath. "I did not approach you because of the contract," Lucien admitted. "I approached you because for once I wanted someone to know me before they knew my last name." Noah's anger faltered dangerously at the sincerity in his voice. Lucien stepped closer beneath the umbrella, close enough that Noah could see raindrops caught against his lashes. "But I understand why you feel betrayed," he said quietly. "And if you want to walk away after tonight, I will not stop you." There it was again. That strange gentleness that never matched the cold billionaire image everyone described. Noah looked down at the coat still wrapped around his shoulders, at the warmth Lucien had given him even after Noah pushed him away. Somewhere behind them, a black SUV slowed near the curb while Lucien's security detail waited discreetly at a distance. Powerful, untouchable, feared by half the city probably, and somehow standing alone in the rain looking at Noah like losing him would actually matter. "You are impossible to hate," Noah whispered before he could stop himself. Something fragile flickered briefly across Lucien's expression at those words. Hope, which somehow scared Noah more than anything else. 3 days after the storm outside the Bennett estate, Noah made the catastrophic mistake of thinking things might finally calm down. That was the problem with hope. It always arrived right before disaster. He was standing beside Lucien at a charity gala hosted inside the Vale Foundation Museum downtown, surrounded by crystal chandeliers and people wealthy enough to buy entire buildings without checking their bank accounts first. Cameras flashed constantly around them while reporters whispered about the mysterious relationship between Lucien Vale and the man originally rumored to be trapped in an arranged engagement with him. Noah still had not figured out what exactly he and Lucien were anymore. Fake dating had somehow become late-night phone calls, quiet dinners, soft conversations in the back seat of black luxury cars while Chicago lights blurred outside the windows. Lucien had started looking at him differently too, less guarded, like Noah had become the only person in the room he actually trusted, which was terrifying, because Noah was starting to trust him back. "You are overthinking again," Lucien murmured beside him, voice low enough that only Noah could hear. Noah glanced sideways. "How do you always know?" Lucien adjusted the cuff of his black suit calmly. "Your left eyebrow twitches when you are anxious." Noah blinked. "That is unsettlingly specific." A faint smile touched Lucien's mouth. God, Noah was doomed. Before he could respond, movement near the center staircase drew attention across the ballroom. Daniel Mercer. Of course. Noah immediately felt his stomach tighten. Daniel stood near a group of reporters holding a champagne glass with the confidence of a man about to ruin somebody's life for entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel announced smoothly, loud enough to cut through the music. Before tonight continues, I believe there is something everyone deserves to see. Lucien's expression changed instantly. Calm, cold, dangerous. Noah felt it beside him immediately. Reporters turned toward Daniel with growing excitement, while giant projection screens along the ballroom walls suddenly flickered to life. Noah frowned in confusion. Then his blood turned to ice. Photographs appeared across the screens. Noah sitting with Mia at the coffee shop. The fake boyfriend advertisement open on his phone. Grainy close-up shots of text messages discussing payment for a fake relationship. Cropped screenshots carefully arranged to look transactional and manipulative. Gasps spread through the ballroom almost instantly. It appears, Daniel continued smoothly, that Mr. Bennett's romance with Lucien Vale may not be quite as genuine as the public was led to believe. Noah stopped breathing. Around him, whispers exploded like wildfire. Gold digger. Manipulation. Publicity stunt. Somebody actually laughed quietly near the back of the room. Noah felt heat crawl painfully up his neck as camera flashes intensified around them. Daniel looked directly at Lucien with fake sympathy. I simply thought you deserved to know the truth. Noah turned instinctively toward Lucien, toward the one person whose reaction mattered. Lucien said nothing. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds. It felt like betrayal stretching into eternity. Noah's chest tightened so sharply it physically hurt. He suddenly became horribly aware of every person staring at him, judging him, waiting for Lucien Vale to reject him publicly. Noah swallowed hard and stepped back slightly. Lucien, he said quietly. Lucien's expression remained unreadable, still silent. The room grew quieter with every passing second. Fear crept cold and ugly through Noah's chest. Of course this was how it ended. He had always been the embarrassing complication. The reckless emotional mistake beside a man who controlled billion-dollar negotiations without blinking. Daniel smiled faintly, clearly sensing victory. I imagine this arrangement has been uncomfortable for the Vale family. Noah looked down immediately, humiliation burning behind his ribs. He could survive strangers hating him. What he could not survive was Lucien looking at him. Like a disappointment. Then Lucien finally moved. Calmly, smoothly. He stepped forward between Noah and the crowd of reporters, placing himself directly in front of Noah without touching him. Protective even now. The ballroom fell completely silent. Lucien looked first at Daniel, then slowly at the projection screens. His voice, when it came, was terrifyingly calm. You broke into private communications, he said softly. Daniel's smile faltered slightly. Lucien continued. You illegally obtained surveillance photographs. Another step forward. Controlled. Precise. Deadly in the quietest possible way. And you publicly humiliated someone I care about, because your ego could not tolerate rejection. Noah's heart stopped completely. The entire ballroom froze. Daniel laughed nervously. Lucien, surely you are not claiming this relationship is real. Lucien went still for one long, devastating second. Then he turned toward Noah at last. Gray eyes steady, vulnerable in a way Noah had never seen before. And in front of every reporter, every billionaire, every camera in the room, Lucien Vale quietly said, it became real the moment I fell in love with him. The silence after Lucien's confession felt almost unreal. Hundreds of people stood frozen beneath the crystal chandeliers of the Vale Foundation ballroom, while cameras flashed non-stop like lightning trapped indoors. Noah could barely breathe. It became real the moment I fell in love with him. The words echoed through his chest so hard it physically hurt. Across the room, Daniel Mercer's confident expression finally cracked. Lucien, he said carefully, forcing out a strained laugh. Surely you do not expect people to believe this after those photographs. Lucien did not even look at him immediately. Instead, he turned fully toward Noah first. Calm gray eyes softer than Noah had ever seen them before. Like none of the reporters mattered. None of the cameras mattered. Only him. Then Lucien reached out slowly and adjusted the sleeve of Noah's suit where it had twisted earlier in the chaos. A tiny gesture. Gentle. Intimate. Real. The ballroom somehow became even quieter. Lucien finally faced Daniel. You made one critical mistake tonight, he said calmly. Daniel crossed his arms defensively. And what mistake was that? Lucien's expression cooled instantly back into something sharp enough to cut glass. You assumed I would be embarrassed by him. Noah's heartbeat stumbled painfully again. Lucien lifted one hand slightly toward the massive projection screens still displaying the fake relationship evidence. Those messages are real, he admitted without hesitation. Murmurs spread instantly through the crowd. Noah's stomach dropped. But Lucien continued before panic could fully settle in. Noah did search for a fake boyfriend. Another wave of whispers exploded through the ballroom. Daniel smiled immediately, sensing victory returning. Exactly. Lucien ignored him completely. Because he was terrified. The room quieted again. Lucien's voice never rose. That somehow made every word hit harder. He believed his future was being decided for him by people with more power than he had. So he tried to escape the only way he knew how. Noah stared at him speechlessly. Lucien stepped closer beside him, shoulder brushing lightly against Noah's arm, steadying him. What Daniel conveniently failed to include, Lucien continued smoothly, is that the arrangement between our families existed long before Noah ever posted that advertisement. Daniel's confidence faltered slightly. Lucien nodded once toward the back of the ballroom. One of his security men immediately approached carrying a slim black folder. Lucien took it calmly before removing several printed documents. These are the original Bennett and Vale engagement agreements, he said, signed over 8 months ago. Audible shock rippled through the room. Reporters immediately started photographing the documents. Daniel's face lost color. Lucien continued, perfectly composed. Noah did not manipulate me for money or status. His gray eyes sharpened slightly. If anything, he spent the first several weeks trying very hard not to fall for me at all. A few quiet laughs spread through the crowd. Noah felt heat rush straight into his face. Lucien glanced toward him briefly, and for one dangerous second the cold billionaire mask disappeared. Completely. Affection. Real affection. Right there in front of everyone. Daniel recovered enough to speak again. That still does not explain the arrangement itself. Lucien finally looked bored. No, he corrected softly. It explains exactly why you leaked this now. Daniel froze. Lucien took another slow step forward. Mercer Holdings lost the Vale acquisition bid last month. The ballroom erupted instantly into whispers. Daniel's jaw tightened visibly. Lucien's voice stayed calm and devastatingly precise. You attempted to publicly humiliate Noah because you assumed exposing our relationship would damage my reputation. Another pause. Then Lucien delivered the final blow with terrifying elegance. Unfortunately for you, the board approved my controlling shares this morning. Daniel blinked. What? Meaning, Lucien said softly. I no longer answer to anyone concerned about my public image. The silence that followed felt enormous. Then Lucien turned fully toward Noah again in front of every camera in the ballroom. The beginning may have been complicated, he admitted quietly. But my feelings for him are not. Noah's chest tightened painfully. Lucien reached into his suit pocket slowly before pulling out a small velvet box Noah recognized immediately. The original engagement ring. Gasps spread through the crowd again. Lucien looked directly into Noah's eyes as he opened the box between them. I was supposed to give this to you because our families arranged it, he said softly enough that somehow the entire ballroom still heard every word. But I am asking now because I choose you. Noah's vision blurred instantly. Around them, cameras flashed like stars exploding while half the ballroom openly stared in shock. Lucien's voice lowered slightly, warmer now. Vulnerable in a way Noah knew nobody else had ever seen from him before. Not the contract, he whispered. Not the alliance. You. For one suspended heartbeat, the entire world disappeared except for the man standing in front of him looking terrified of losing him despite holding more power than almost anyone else in the room. And suddenly Noah understood something devastating. Lucien Vale had never once made him feel trapped, only chosen. For a moment, Noah could not hear anything except the sound of his own heartbeat. The ballroom around them had dissolved into blurred lights and distant camera flashes, all drowned beneath the impossible reality of Lucien Vale standing in front of him, holding out the engagement ring like it was no longer a business arrangement or family expectation, but something painfully honest, something real. Noah looked down at the ring resting inside the velvet box. Platinum, elegant, understated in the expensive way only billionaire families could manage. 3 weeks ago, that ring had felt like a prison sentence. Now it looked terrifyingly different in Lucien's hands. Because this time Lucien was not asking him to obey. He was asking him to choose. Noah swallowed hard, emotions tangling painfully in his chest. You really know how to make things dramatic, he whispered shakily. A soft laugh escaped Lucien then, quiet and warm and completely unlike the cold, untouchable man the world thought they knew. I learned from you. God. Noah was completely helpless against that voice. Around them, reporters still waited breathlessly while half the ballroom openly watched for his answer. But for the first time since this entire disaster began, Noah realized something important. Nobody was forcing him anymore. Not his family. Not the contract. Not the cameras. The choice belonged entirely to him now. Lucien lowered the ring box slightly, gray eyes steady on Noah's face. Calm on the surface. But Noah could see the fear underneath now. The real fear. Not of public humiliation or damaged reputation. Fear of rejection. Fear that Noah would walk away after everything. Somehow that mattered more than all the billion-dollar negotiations in the world. Noah stepped closer before he could overthink it. A quiet breath visibly left Lucien's chest at the movement. You lied to me, Noah said softly. Lucien nodded once immediately. I know. You manipulated the situation. Yes. Noah studied him for another long second. And somehow you are still the safest person I have ever met. Something fragile flickered across Lucien's face then. Relief so genuine it almost hurt to look at. Noah smiled despite himself. That is honestly very annoying. This time Lucien actually laughed quietly, shoulders relaxing for what felt like the first time all night. Noah looked down at the ring again before holding out his hand slowly. Gasps rippled through the ballroom instantly. Lucien stared at him like he could not quite believe it either. I am not agreeing because of the contract, Noah warned softly. Lucien's voice dropped lower, gentler. I would never ask you to. Noah nodded once. Good. Then, in front of every flashing camera and every stunned billionaire in the room, Lucien carefully slid the ring onto Noah's finger. The ballroom erupted immediately afterward. Applause. Reporters shouting questions. Cameras flashing so brightly, it looked like lightning exploding across the museum walls. But Noah barely noticed any of it because Lucien was still looking at him with that same impossibly soft expression, like Noah had just handed him something priceless. You realize, Noah murmured quietly, my family is going to become unbearable after this. I own 3 penthouses, Lucien replied calmly. We can hide. Noah laughed for real then, the sound warm and breathless and happy in a way he had not felt in months. Lucien's fingers brushed lightly against his wrist afterward, subtle and grounding. There is one more thing, Lucien said softly. Noah blinked. What now? Lucien glanced toward the engagement contract still sitting abandoned near the edge of the stage. Then, without hesitation, he picked it up and handed it directly to Noah. Keep it, he said. Noah frowned slightly. Why? Lucien's gray eyes held his steadily. Because if we do this, he said quietly, I want you to know you can walk away anytime. I will never trap you into staying. Noah stared at him speechlessly. There it was again. That impossible gentleness hidden beneath all the power and control. The reason Noah had fallen for him long before he admitted it to himself. Slowly, Noah folded the contract in half. Then again, and dropped it into the nearest champagne bucket beside them. The crowd actually laughed and applauded louder. Lucien looked genuinely startled for once in his life. Noah smiled softly at him. I think, he said quietly, I would rather start something real instead. For one suspended second, Lucien simply looked at him like the entire world had tilted off its axis. Then his hand found Noah's, warm and steady in front of everyone, and together they walked out of the ballroom beneath the glow of thousands of camera flashes and the Chicago skyline waiting beyond the glass windows like the beginning of something neither of them had planned, but both of them finally wanted.